You're listening to Mammal Watching with Charles Foley and John Hall. You can find other episodes at mammalwatching.com/podcast.
Well, hello and welcome to the second full episode of the Mammal Watching podcast with me, John Hall from New York.
And me, Charles Foley from Minneapolis. How are you doing, John?
I'm good, Charles. I just got back from Mexico yesterday, along with about 10,000 bug bites. It was a mammal trip, of course. I was there with a friend, Juan Cruzado, who's a Mexican biologist, and he's extraordinary. Not only does he know a lot about the mammals, he knows just about every other biologist in Mexico. So he got us into places which would be hard to visit otherwise. We were up in Sinaloa, beautiful dry forest, but in cartel country. Then went down to the Sonoran Desert and ended up in Hidalgo, quite close to Mexico City. I will be doing a trip report, and perhaps we can talk about this another time. But spoiler, 36 species of mammals at least, 15 of them, at least 15, new for me. So I'm pretty happy today.
I bet you are. And one of those mammals was a Megadontimus, the giant deer mouse, which is
mega. It was that's
super animal.
It's a big range extension, and there's hardly any records of that species. So that was very exciting. None of us knew what it was when we caught it. And how are you doing?
So I'm doing very well. And I have been fixated on a video that was shared recently on a new Facebook site about East African mammals, showing what I think is absolutely the coolest rodent on the planet. Now, I know that many people think that one rodent's pretty much like another, but I suggest that anyone in that camp really needs to watch the video of this animal, which is called Lophiomus, and otherwise known as a maned or crested rat. And the video, it was posted by a guy called Tyler Davis and taken somewhere in the vicinity of Mount Kenya. And although it's mainly a nocturnal species, it does occasionally venture out during daytime. And in this video, you can see one of these walking through some trees during the day. And for those of you who haven't seen a picture of Lophiomus, it's basically a large rodent about the size of a rabbit and has a beautiful long black and white fur. But what happens is when the animal gets alarmed or excited, it raises its crest and it exposes a set of black, white, and brown stripes all along its side. And these stripes, they sort of function as a warning coloration in the same way that stripes on the skunks do. But unlike a skunk, the Lophiomus doesn't actually have any of its own chemical defenses. Instead, what it's done is evolved an amazing behavior that was only discovered recently and is actually written up in a paper co-authored by Jonathan Kingdom. So what it does is that it chews on the bark of the Acocanthera tree, which is also called the poison arrow tree because it was widely used by hunter-gatherer tribes as the source of their poison arrows. And then what the Lophiomus does is it licks this poison onto the fur on its side, and this fur has special hairs that absorb the poison. So then if an animal tries to eat the Lophiomus, it'll get a mouthful of toxins and spits the rat out. Or if it ingests a whole lot of poison, then the predator could actually die. And these rats also have really thick skin and heavy skulls. Like the skulls look almost like turtle skulls, which suggests that they're adapted to survive being chewed on by a predator. But the thing is, it's still a mystery how the rat itself actually avoids dying from chewing this poison. And this is the only mammal species that's known to do this. European hedgehogs, they're known to chew up toads and then rub toad toxins on their spines, which makes them irritating to predators. And I should say that the white-bellied hedgehog in Africa actually does a similar thing, because I once picked up a dead one in Tarangire National Park and I stabbed myself with the spine and my finger became swollen and infected. But obviously the Lophiomus takes this to a whole new level and can actually cause death in the attacking animal. And not only that, if all that wasn't cool enough, there was some work done by a lady called Sarah Weinstein and others who trapped some Lophiomus and kept them in enclosures. And they suggest that the species may actually be monogamous, which again is really unusual in mammals. So all this, of course, means that Lophiomus should be at the very top of any mammal watcher's list of most desired species. And if you want to see it, you'll have to go to East Africa, as it's endemic to that area. And it seems to be most widely spread in Kenya, Ethiopia, and Somaliland. Although the weird thing is that in Kenya, it's mostly associated with Afro-montane areas, whereas in Somalia, it's found in bushland, sort of close to sea level. So obviously, it's got a pretty wide habitat range. And I'm guessing if you do go and look for them, that around like Kenya is probably the easiest place to see them. They apparently occasionally will den under a lodge or a house, and then they can be quite easy to find for a while before they take off again. And not only that, but because they're poisonous, they're apparently not terribly shy. So when you do see one, if you do see one, then you should hopefully get a pretty good view. So anyway, I haven't seen a live one, but many years ago, I did see a dead one on the road between Nairobi and Samburu. So next time I'm in Kenya, I will definitely be trying to find one.
You and me both. They are an extraordinary beast. They've been on my top 21 list for a while. They've just moved up a few places after that. Passionate account. What a fabulous animal, Charles. Thanks.
Yeah, and I guess you're hoping to get out there this summer, aren't you, John?
I'd like to. Kenya's open, so we'll see. It's a bit too early to make plans, but I'm hoping to. And if I do, then guess what I'll be looking for.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, so we're very pleased to be joined today with a good friend of mine. You'll know her reports from the site, but we're here with Cheryl Antonucci.
Now, Cheryl, I'd like to start off with asking you just to tell us a little bit about yourself and where you live and what you do.
Yeah, hey, I live in Richmond, Virginia, in the United States. I am a veterinarian, and I do two different things. I work at an emergency and critical care facility treating dogs and cats. That's the job that probably helps fuel my expensive little hobby of mammal watching. But I'm also the head veterinarian for the Metro Richmond Zoo, which is right outside Richmond. And we have 2,000 animals at our facility, including a wide diversity of mammals and a large group of primates, which to me are the best mammals on the planet. And I've been working with exotics since I was 18 years old. It's a long, long time.
Excellent. Well, and so you've been working with animals since you're 18 years old, but how did you actually get into mammal watching?
Oh, I probably got into mammal watching. I always had an interest in animals since I was a young person. My parents did the typical 1970s parenting and dropped me off at my grandparents every weekend. And my grandparents, what they felt like the correct thing to do then was to go to the zoo every weekend. So I started being very, very interested in mammals and just wildlife in general. And then my parents were always very pro travel. And we did a lot of traveling when I was younger. But once I graduated university, my father decided that going to South Africa was probably the right thing to do. So we took a family trip to South Africa. And the first thing that we flew into Kruger National Park. And when we landed, and there was a giraffe hanging out at the airport. And I think I was hooked from that moment on.
Okay, that's really weird. I just have to say that a giraffe in the Kruger National Park was what got me interested in wildlife as well. Yes.
Yeah. So, I was the same way. I was like, oh my gosh, a giraffe. Yeah, it was a magical drive from the airport to our lodge, which I can't remember. I mean, I was young. I can't remember the name of the lodge, but there was a giraffe at the airport, which I was flabbergasted. I got yelled at for photographing impala every 5 seconds because, of course, I'd never seen one. And we saw rhinos and we saw sable antelope. We saw klipspringers. There was a steenbok. I mean, just animals I'd never thought about before. And that trip, South Africa, is always going to play a special place in my heart because it was my first legit mammal watching trip that I ever did.
Fantastic. So I think I know the answer to this one, Cheryl, and as anyone who's traveled with you would also know, but do you have a favorite group of mammals by any chance?
It's so weird. I had to really think long and hard on it, but non-human primates definitely win the cake. There's a lot of reasons why I like them. And I know there's some people in the community that I've read their comments about primates are not very interesting to watch. They are the most interesting group of primates. An interesting group of mammals to watch, in my opinion. Majority of them are in family groups. There's all kinds of different activities that they do. Usually the youngsters are always wanting to interact with people. They can live in all kinds of different ecosystems, but unfortunately 2/3 of them live in rainforest type ecosystems. So you think about mammals in peril, they are definitely at the head of the list. The sad thing about these guys, you think about flagship species, a lot of people want to talk about birds or insects or things like that, but primates are also big flagship species, in my opinion, about the health of an ecosystem and the health of an area. And 65% of primates on the planet live in 4 countries, Brazil being number 1. There's about 110 species that live in Brazil, Madagascar being number 2, followed by close Indonesia and the DRC. When you think about all the management of wildlife in all 4 of those countries, it's pretty grim. And, again, 65% of primates live in those 4 countries, and most primates are considered either endangered or critically endangered at this point. So I think they're an exciting group of mammals to look for too. I think in someone's lifetime, it would be difficult to get the entire set. And you can read 18 different lists on how many primates there are on the planet right now. The last one I read was about 505 from the IUCN. Of course, primate people love to split, yay. So that changes, I think, every 5 seconds. But even it's still, I think it's a great group of animals to try to go and see. There's nothing like it, in my opinion.
Yeah, and as you say, it's also, as people like Russell Mittermeier would say, it's very worthwhile to be a primate ticker, because you're going to promote these little patches of forest where some of these species are clinging on, and you're really making a difference. So.
Absolutely. And all the places they live, there's other mammals too. So even if you go on a trip just to see a specific primate, like what I usually tend to do, you're going to see other things as well. Yeah. And then there's little things with feathers in there too that can keep other people.
And where are you with your primate listing? Do you have most of the ones?
Yeah, I'm at 171 species of primate, so probably not as high as what John is. He's probably ahead of me. I actually sat down last night and really quickly, because I am a lister, which I'm proud of, whatever. I'm at 752 mammals as of today. So, and 171 of those are primates.
Congratulations.
Fantastic. Wow.
Yeah, not John, like 1994 level, but I think not too shabby. 44. Okay. Yeah, sure, but I think not too shabby for someone, I would love to, definitely there's some primates that I am obsessed with. I read your lovely report of your owl-faced guanin report there, Charles. That would be such a great one to see.
Which one, sorry?
The owl-faced guanin in Rwanda.
Oh, you mean the one that I spent time walking around and not seeing? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that one's great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anytime. Yeah, I had a good friend of mine that worked on habituating chimpanzees in Rwanda as part of her experience post-university, and one of her leaders had wanted to see the owl-faced guanin and had seen them the whole time, the 2 years that she was in Rwanda. She saw them once.
Ouch.
So
yeah.
It'd be a really cool primate to see, but.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to go back there in a hurry, but yes, I could tell you exactly where I didn't see them. So I'm going to hazard a wild guess that some of your favorite mammal watching trips have revolved around primates. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Do you want to tell us about some of those?
No. My favorite mammal watching trip of my entire life, and I don't think anything is going to compare, is going to see mountain gorillas in Rwanda. And I did that, I think it was about 13 years ago with a good friend of mine. And we decided to book 2 different treks to go see them. And we also went to do the golden monkeys, which they have a large mega troop of golden monkeys, about 800 of them that you can see that are super easy. I really enjoy mammal watching, and I hike, but I'm not a great hiker. Definitely falling is part of one of my sports, but I'll do it. I definitely will do it. So one of the things for anybody that knows about going to trek for mountain gorillas is usually they put you in a big, huge circle, and the trackers look at everybody and they try to look at everybody's level of fitness, and then they put you off into little groups. So my friend and I made it a point to tell the people not to be fooled by our youth or our youthful looks, and to put us into the group with the most crippled individuals, because we felt like that would be a good hiking experience for us. So laughing, they finally agreed. And my friend and I were put into a group with maybe some people, all Europeans that were 80 plus. So we felt strong, we felt good. And they picked, I can't remember the name of the group, but they picked the group that they were going to let us go and trek and see. And they warned us that unfortunately the bamboo was fermenting, and that all the gorillas we were going to see were going to be intoxicated. So that sounded great to me, an easy trek. Let's go see some drunk gorillas and kind of go from there. But unfortunately for us, the silverback was being challenged by two rogue silverbacks. And so he was quickly moving his family group over and over again. And one of the things that they'll let you do is they'll let you trek for a very extended period of time, to my dismay, to find the families until they give up. And so everything that we did was off trail. I think I fell a total, including holding a hand of the person that was carrying my things. I think I slid down a pathway with him at one point. Everybody else fell too, so I felt also pretty good about that. Hiking up and down and up and down and up and down. It took us about 4 hours until we got to our group. The silverback was up in a tree, and then his entire intoxicated family, who probably didn't care less, were sitting in the middle of an opening. And all of them, including the baby, had fermented bamboo in their arms. And we're pretty much rocking back and forth. We get to them, and one of the blackbacks, who I counted 14 stalks of bamboo in his arms, saw my friend and I. My friend is also a blonde, and I think he fancied them. And it took I think about 6 trackers to block him repeatedly from trying to tackle my friend and I. Wow. It's a wonderful experience. I mean, horrible hike, intoxicated, great apes. But it was probably one of the most magical things I'd ever seen. It looked like a frat party from when I was in university. Everybody, males, females, babies, everybody. And so that was probably the greatest mammal watching experience of my life.
Wow. And how did the elderly Europeans do with the hike?
They also
Are there a few buried out there, or what?
Maybe, you just don't know. They also seemed, the good thing is that everybody was walking pretty slow, which made me feel like I was like the star of the group. So there was a lot of panting, maybe some open mouth breathing with some of the Europeans. Maybe from me, I just don't remember. I tried to block that part out. But yeah, it was an interesting 4 hours of hiking through one of the most difficult hikes to have one of the greatest experiences.
That's fantastic. It's John. Have you been to Rwanda for the gorillas?
I have, and I was probably there about the same time as you, Cheryl. I think I was there in 2006.
You probably had like the strong group. They looked at you and were like, he can hike for 14 hours.
I was with a friend. I remember she was taking it very seriously. I mean, she's younger than me, but she had a big stick and she was like really getting pumped for this hike. Yeah. And I think we were quite lucky. We went to see the group, the Diane Fossey's group, and they were meant to be the furthest away, but they were very convenient. They'd moved close, so it wasn't too tough. But yeah, it's an extraordinary experience to sit there. One came up and touched my leg, a young one, and it was just like, this is crazy. And yeah.
Right.
Really
yeah. Amazing beasts. But I do remember some man-eating nettles along the route over there, certainly on the Uganda one, where we did it. And,
I heard the Uganda one was much more difficult. And like I said, I love to see mammals. I'm not the strongest hiker, but I'll still do it. But it just takes me a lot longer than some of the other people in this group, so to speak. That's why I usually hire private guides, and I'll try to do as gentle as I can.
Yeah,
fair enough. Way to go. It's and any other some major experiences that you want to share with us?
I was talking to you guys earlier about this. I also was talking about what I think is probably the most magical place on the planet. Despite the fact that I always think that the neotropics are where I love to travel the most. My second favorite thing that I've done also is in Africa. So I'm promoting Africa twice. And that was my trip to Ethiopia. There were some amazing things, obviously seeing the geladas in the Simeon Mountains and just sitting for an hour with geladas making all kinds of different noises. Going to see the BBC studied group of Hamadryas baboons in Awash National Park and having like 200 Hamadryas in this oasis with waterfalls and lush greenery after being through desert was also amazing. But I think one of the most beautiful places on the planet is the Bali Mountain National Park. There's nothing like it, in my opinion. And not that canines are like my huge target, but the wolf sightings that we had were absolutely amazing. We had a really, really good guide. I think we saw about 9 different wolves, some of them were like 1 meter away. I mean, they told us, get out of the car, to stay by the car. And the wolves, and we watched them actively hunting. We watched groups of 2 to 3 wolves together, and they were so relaxed that there was nothing like it. But one of my favorite things there is I was a little bit nervous. I really wanted to see a Bali mountain monkey when I was there. And our guide kept telling me, it's really difficult. It's really difficult. There's a troop that hangs. We stayed at the Bali Mountain Lodge, and there is a troop that's behind the lodge, but they're a little bit nervous, and they are. You'd see them, and they would run off completely. But there's another like mega troop of about 80 monkeys that hangs out, but they shift locations. And our guide was like, let's see if we can find that troop. And, he was doing the whole typical, no promises, no promises. It's just wildlife. I can't promise anything. And in my head, I was like, yeah, this is what we're going to do. And so we found a bunch of children standing on the side of the road. And so our guide asked them, have you seen the monkeys? And they're like, yeah, they're right over here. And in my head, I was like, oh no, they're probably talking about the colobus. They're not talking about the Bali, because there's colobus like everywhere there. And I was trying to, have our guide interpret, not the colobus, not the big black and white shaggy things. And they're like, no. And so these two little boys, they must have been like 10, walked us, I don't know, like 15 meters from the side of the road. And we walked into this bamboo thicket, and we were in the middle of it. And there was bamboo everywhere around us, and about 80 monkeys just going about their day, completely unfazed by us. And we just sat there for over an hour watching them, groom each other and eat, and like youngsters play. And again, it was one of the most beautiful places, and having a sighting like that was like nothing that can compare.
Fantastic. And so the Bali monkey is, for those who don't know, it's basically a form of vervet monkey or grivet monkey. And it's, I think, but I didn't see them. I looked for them, and I didn't know where to look when I was there back in 2007. So I'm envious. But do they look all that different from a regular vervet?
Yeah, they really do. They are much fuzzy. I mean, obviously it's a lot colder up in that national park, so they're a much like fuzzier monkey. They're probably about the same size and body conformation as a grivet monkey. Yeah. But their main, like the trunk of their body is kind of like a brownish, like a rich brown, almost sable-y color, versus the grivet having like the typical like vervet coloring of all the gray. And then they have kind of, coloration coming off their face, and then kind of a pale whitish face. So they did look very different.
Okay, so it's
but same size and like same behavioral type things. Like I think if they could have stolen things from us, like we had a lot of grivets that stole things from us when we were in Ethiopia, and felt pretty good about it. I mean, I have a great picture of a grivet monkey with an entire chunk of injera bread like in its mouth, because I turned my head for 2 seconds and grabbed the food off my plate like a typical vervet would do. That's naughty little monkeys. I love them, but they're so bad. They've stolen many things from me in my lifetime, those little guys, everybody in that group.
Yeah, I also managed to miss them as well in Ethiopia.
Really? Okay.
Yep. No, didn't see any. I also had a look around, but no luck.
Yeah, we saw them twice. We saw the mega troop, and then that they had told us about, and then the ones behind the lodge. But the ones behind the lodge were what I like to call stranger danger monkeys. I don't know why, because I don't think anybody's persecuting them there. But the colonists were pretty relaxed. But as soon as we saw one of them behind the lodge, immediately would run. So I don't know why. I would think that people there aren't persecuting them. I think they want tourists to see them. But the mega troop that supposedly hangs out really close to the road is the one to try to go for. Got to ask some little kids, man. Sometimes kids are good for something,
Some of them are.
Right, absolutely. They're finding your monkeys and bringing beers. Absolutely. Can't think of too many other things, but those two certainly count.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great that these species that, when I went to Ethiopia, they were hardly known, and like no one saw them.
Oh, yeah.
My guide had never seen them, didn't know where to look. And now, there's locations. It seems like you found a really reliable place for them. This is happening again.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Again. So it's awesome.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I also agree. The Soneti Plateau is an amazing place, and the thing that really struck me was the fact when I was there, certainly there were thousands and thousands of rodents.
Oh yeah.
So, agreed.
You've got all the acanthus everywhere, and then you've got the giant mole rats, which are fantastic. They look like
fantastic
flippers with 2 eyes on the sort of front of their head.
They should be on Sesame Street. Yeah.
It's brilliant. And I think I drove our cook. We had a Land Rover, a Land Cruiser, and we had a guide with us, and the cook was with us driving around, and I drove him completely mad, stopping every 5 minutes. Oh, what's that species? And, what's that? And finally, he just said, "We need to get back." I said, "All right, okay, we're going back."
It is amazing. There's so many rodents. It's unbelievable. I did the same thing because I was like, I need to know what this is. I need to know what this is, kind of thing.
Yeah, and the thing I noticed about when I saw after stopping every 10 seconds like Charles to photograph every rat, when we finally saw wolves, I think it was later in the day and it was blowing a gale. It was like a 50k wind. And we were probably 100 meters from this wolf that was prowling around. And I just started rubbing my fingers together without making a sound that I could hear inside the car with the window open. And it heard. They must have incredible hearing. I think they're hunting all these things by sound. It's just extraordinary that they could hear from that distance.
Yeah, it's a magical experience. So, I mean, there's so many great mammals to see in Ethiopia. So, I mean, I think it's definitely another place that, again, I'm here promoting Africa, but Brazil is still like where my heart is when it comes to mammal watching.
And you've traveled a ton. You've been to a lot of places, but we were talking about this earlier. And you're unusual, I suppose, for a mammal watcher in that you're a woman, because most of us, it's mainly men who sort of write on the website and post reports. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, no, that's a great question that we were talking about earlier, because it is true. I mean, most of the time when I go on trips, even with one person, it's usually majority men. Sometimes their partners are with them, and then very rarely it'll be two women together. And usually when it's two women together, most people when I travel think that's me and my partner, so to speak. I'm like, no, it's me and my friend. I really, I was using bird watching as an example, since, bird watching is this multi-billion-dollar industry for some weird reason, that they did this study of American versus English bird watchers. And they found that the people that are the hardcore listers, the people that are willing to spend the money on, the different types of cameras and equipment and those little vests that they wear with all the pockets and things like that, are men. So we all know the vests, are men. But one of the things that I was reading actually before we started this today was this article that was written they interviewed 7 young bird watching females. And they said the same thing. They wanted to know, why do you think that it is that it's such a male dominated sport, and not more females do it? And I think it does come down to listing, if you really want to think about it. Statistically, I think most females are going to want to be in a small group, and are not going to want to do these trips where they're going off John Hall by themselves in a car, hiring someone that maybe doesn't speak English to some country where, statistically a woman could be raped or robbed or things like that. And it's a safety issue. And at least for me, I've considered myself to be pretty bold about doing things, but going by myself and not having an established guide or not having a friend or a partner with me to travel is kind of a little bit of a nervous thing. So that can kind of decrease the numbers. And then of course there was a lot of things saying that, this is a slightly sexist thing to say, but men typically tend to be more competitive across the board, where women tend to be more passive and more, hey, I'm going to sit here and watch this sighting of this animal for an extended period of time. Where, again, I'm just using bird watching as an example because, we're the little cousin of that sport. Whereas a lot of listers are going to be like, okay, I've seen it next. Okay, I've seen it next. What are we going to do next? And I've seen that too, not so much with mammal listers as with bird watchers. I've been on trips where the first time I went to Borneo, we had a group. I learned that, group travel is bad. We got to the lodge in the Danum Valley a day late, and we joined up with 4 other people, all Americans. They were all bird watchers, and I wanted to see an orangutan. I was like, I am going to do whatever I can see an orangutan. And we ended up joining up with the group, and there was a single male orangutan. I mean, he climbed down a tree, walked in front of us, and then climbed up another tree, which is unheard of because orangutans, the males will do it sometimes, but it's a very unsafe behavior. So it was magical. And there was a bird watcher that literally, I think we were like 8 minutes in with the sighting, and said out loud, oh my God, we just saw orangutans yesterday. Do we really have to do this? And I was like, okay, lister. I was like, come on, regardless of what you like to see, this is like if there was like such an amazing bird thing like that, I would watch it as well, secretly dreaming of mammals, but I would still sit there and watch it and want to do it. I also think like statistically, I think men are more like, again, willing to buy all the different things. Like I use a heat scope as an example. The first time I ever used one was in Australia, and the second time I was there. And I didn't really enjoy trying to find things with a heat scope. And then the second experience I had with a heat scope was with you and John in Brazil. And, you and Amber both kept asking me, do you want to look? And I was like, no, I'm good. Keep at it. And but it was absolutely amazing, like what you found. Mm. Like that part of it, I don't enjoy some of the ways that you can see stuff as much as I'd like to take the fruits of other people's bounty when it comes to things like that. Whereas, again, I think the listing is more sport-like with men, despite my considering myself a lister 100%. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It's very interesting, these differences in mentality. And taking risks, you might say men are willing to take risks, or men are more stupid. I don't know which it is, but I've certainly done things now looking back. I think, what the hell was I thinking? I mean, this is just so crazy. But I saw a new mammal and I'm still here, more or less. So
you feel like, hey, it's good. Yeah,
and on heat scopes, I don't think anyone enjoys using a heat scope. It's just, you got to put the work in, and someone has to wield the thing. So I don't enjoy staring.
Yeah. I'm like you, Cheryl. I'm happy to feed from the scraps of John's table. So if he puts the time in, then. But going back to the original point, there was a great paper that was written fairly recently, and it was a student trip that went out to Tanzania, and this trip was actually led by some good friends of ours, and they set a challenge for these students, and these were all undergraduate students, right? So 18 to 22-year-old, and they set a challenge for these students to try and see and identify 100 birds. And two of the students, one was a man and one was a woman, really sort of took up the challenge, and they really spent a lot of time out there looking at birds, etc. And the guy, he would just tap anyone who sort of knew anything about birds. He'd say, tell me what the bird is, and he'd list it and tick it off, and then go on to the next one and next one. So definitely, it's like a twitch mentality. And he would like keep his running tally, and everyone knew what his running tally was. And when they asked the girl, how many do you have, she would never tell them, right? So then it came to the final evening when they had to present their sort of final tally. How many birds did you see? And the guy had some very high number, and to be honest, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was way, way, way over 100. And the girl said, I saw 100 species of bird. But for every one of those species, she had taken detailed notes of what it looked like, what it sounded like. I think she'd done some drawings of it, etc. And I think that, in many ways, encapsulates the slightly different attitudes between men and women.
Yeah, it's exactly like almost the same thing like what I think too, You really don't. I remember when I did my first trip report for John, it was to Peru. I was like, I don't know if he's going to want to read this. I don't know if this is going to be interesting. I'd been reading his blog for a while, but I was like, I'm going in. I'm just going to send him this and see what he says, if he likes it. And at that point, I don't know that there were any women really that were really putting trip reports that I can think of. I think it was just all men. I think
so. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a groundbreaker.
Yeah. There you go.
You broke the glass ceiling.
What are your next targets now going to be, and as soon as we can actually start traveling again, of course?
Well, I just got back from Ecuador a couple weeks ago. I just went for a week. It was just like a little baby. I just got my vaccine trip, but I have 2 trips that I've booked. For Memorial Day weekend, I'm going to Paraguay to do my target there is going to obviously be the Palatiti. That'll be my last primate that I need to see in the Pantanal. So I'm pretty excited about that. Fingers crossed.
Can you describe to people what that is?
So it's a normal sized TT monkey. It's much paler in color than some of the classic, like the red fronted TT that people think about, or the brown TT, or the red browed TT.
This is a mid-sized monkey we're talking about, isn't it?
Oh, I apologize. Let me tell you. Yeah, it's a mid-sized small monkey. They tend to be monogamous and have family groups. Usually the largest groups are maybe 5 to 6 individuals. The pair will usually keep their offspring with them for a couple years before they shoo them off. They're very, very territorial. One of the best things about them from a mammal watching point of view is the females, just like gibbons and Asia and males, will call to each other,
super vocal.
part for territorial bonding and part for just telling other TT monkeys, hey, I'm here. If you come here, we will kill you type noises. So from that point of view, they can be not difficult monkeys to find if you kind of follow the call speak.
Well, Cheryl, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you talking to us about your mammal adventures, and we hope that you have many more in the future.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Cheryl. And if you want to read more of Cheryl's very entertaining and informative trip reports, then you could check out her reports from Panama, from Ecuador, from the Sea of Okhotsk in Russia, where she saw ribbon seals, which I'm super jealous of. And there's a bunch more on the site, but there are 3 of her favorites and mine. Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Mammal Watching with Charles Foley and John Hall. You can find other episodes at mammalwatching.com/podcast.